So, hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you about a fun topic. We saw Jason versus Freddy, and I was actually surprised when Freddy is brought back to the normal world that he held his own against the massive, hulking Jason and the scrawny, you know, Freddy because he's scrawny. So, but he was fast and he was like crawling like a monkey on him and stabbing him and stabbing him. But mm, okay, okay. And this is zombie Jason. It's not just human Jason. So, okay. Eventually, I wanted to know Jason versus Michael Myers. Now, not the zombie Jason. I'm saying human Jason. So from part two to part four Jason. Okay. Okay. Who will win? And I have to dissect a little. I gotta dissect them a little bit. Okay. You've got Jason. What he had. What does he has? He's bulky. He's big. He's strong. He uses usually uses more devastating weapons like pitchforks, axes, long machetes. He can withstand hanging. In part three, he can withstand a knife through the clavicle. In part two, he can withstand an axe in the face. Okay, but you have to remember a hockey mask is made to protect your face from a fucking puck, right? So, okay, but the axe went through, uh, but not all the way. Um, and eventually, even when Jason gets a machete by young Tommy Jarvis, Corey Feldman, to his face in part four, and he basically slides down his fucking head when he's going down. He still twitches with his finger that he's not dead yet. How the fuck can that be? So he eventually says, "Die, die, die," and he basically uh, smashed him to pieces with a machete, and eventually he's dead. Okay, let's jump over to Michael. Michael is usually the guy who loves the butcher knife. For some weird reason, he does use in some movies a scythe. He does use an axe occasionally, but the butcher knife will always be his preferred. Knives in general will always be his preferred weapon. The most boring weapon, although it's my second favorite Halloween movie, is in Halloween 2 is the scalpel, which is not a really imposing weapon. It's like this big, and the knife, the knife itself is only like this big because it's only just to cut the flesh open. And it's like I said, that was a really lame weapon. But there's something that Jason in the I'm thinking in part two, part three, and part four, he never had to withstand. Those were bullets. And Michael Myers in part one and in part two gets shot 6 times in the body area. The heart apparently uh, by a 38 caliber revolver flies from a in the first movie from from a window above, from the first floor. still survives, and that's something. And he also is very strong. I mean, let's talk about head crushing. I mean, okay, you see Michael in part three, that funny 3D gimmick where he crushes the guy's head and the eyeball pops out for the 3D gimmick, but he crushes his head. While Michael does the same in part four with what was his name, Brady or something. He's the guy who he's the last uh, he's the last guy left to protect little Daniel Harris with what was her name again? Her her adopted sister, and he eventually, I mean, he really just crushes his head too. So he has that power too, just crushing heads. So it's, yeah, you know, I think if and also I think Michael is a smarter killer than Jason. Yeah, I think he will use his strength to his advantage, but because I don't think that Jason is very smart. But I think if it's in a square, so maybe he could win that way. But let's just call it. You know, if Jason has a fucking machete or an axe, and I still believe that in H2O, that ending scene where Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, hacks Michael's head off is the only way to kill him. Jason is a pronounced um, I mean, he's a guy who's known to hack heads off. So I believe with a machete that's easy to do. With an axe that's easy to do. Let's say he has an axe on him. He has a machete on him. I mean, two weapons and a small knife. Two weapons he can hack his head off. So I'm thinking, yes, Jason would win the fight. Human Jason would win the fight. Yeah. Only if he can hack Michael's head off. If he loses those weapons, then things may turn around and Michael can take him by the neck and stick the giant butcher knife so deep in his head, like what Corey Feldman did. Now, Corey Feldman didn't push the knife so deep, he fell on the ground and the knife was pushed in through falling on the ground. But Michael would do that with his hand, then Michael would win. So basically, what's the prediction? If Jason has his axe and or a machete, he can, and he has the potential to hack. Then I think he will win. He has the better weapons. He's equally strong at least. He can withstand a punch. But if he only has a knife, a small knife, and Michael has his giant butcher knife, like I said, Michael is smarter. I think Michael would do something. He would do something. He would let him stab him or something. But that will Michael doesn't move when he gets stabbed. He's like, and Jason does like, ugh. So he would just flay his face with a giant butcher knife. So it's depends on which kind of weapons Jason has. But if he has his signature machete, then it's Jason. If he doesn't have that, then it's Michael. So what do you think about the outcome of this prediction it basically comes down depending which weapons they have. If they go to if it's a fist fight, I mean, that's gonna be a hard one. It's the first one who rips one of their one of the two guys' heads off, and then I think Jason would win. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think he has more. It's a hard one, but I think it's. I think Jason would win that one. Yeah, but if it's weapons, and he doesn't have his Jason does not have his signature weapon, I'm saying Jason will win the fight over Michael. But it depends on weapons, and I think in hand-to-hand combat, Jason also will win. So that being said, I'm a bigger fan of Michael Myers actually than Jason. I love Jason too. That's also one of my favorite characters. But I think, sadly enough, that Jason will win over Michael Myers. Now, I hope to hear your comments, and because I really want to know what you guys think, Jason or Michael. Let me know. See you next time. Bye bye.